So now we're going to get into the customer use cases, things we're doing today for customers with Ability Drives Performance. As I mentioned, that'll be James Core and Robert Hall from our drives engineering group. Just to give you a quick rundown of what you're gonna hear, there's 3 different scenarios they're going to go through. One was a motor temperature alert, vibrations alert, and a supply voltage alert. And the theme of these predictive maintenance stories you're going to hear is that a threshold was broken, and then we received an alert, and then the drives engineering team, through Ability, they remotely observe the system, the data, troubleshoot. They notify the customer of what they're seeing. And then there's a real collaborative effort that takes place where our drives engineering service team and the customer's team, they really together look into the processes to determine what the root causes are. And then the result of that is we take corrective actions and we solve the problems before they occur. And so the value that we've heard from our customers is preventing them unplanned downtime, which usually results in loss of orders from their customers, and that's a significant cost avoidance. It's increasing their uptime, and it's reducing the time that their engineers and service teams spend in reactive break-fix mode. And so it's more proactive, and it's reducing maintenance over time. And one of the things we're hearing a lot is all of this really results in an improved quality of life for their employees. They're spending less time away from home and family because they're not in those overtime and reactive modes. And so I'm going to stop there. I'll leave this slide up, and Robert and James, you're welcome to jump in, and please remember you'll probably need to unmute.
Hey, this is Robert Hall. Hey, good evening. I want to discuss 3 scenarios actually that we experience. There's actually at this time in our area 2 of us working, myself and Ricky Garrett. The first scenario I want to talk about is the motor temperature alert that we receive. Actually, I can receive these alerts, this particular alert via my phone, actually, as John was showing earlier. After I received the alert, I noticed that this particular alert was pointing to one of the press section drives, which happened to be a 1200 horsepower motor. The temperature had reached the threshold. I dialed into the alarm page and actually began to look at the alarm, the temperature that the motor was actually running at that particular time. Gave a call to the customer, let him know that, hey, this particular motor is in an alarm condition, to send someone over and actually, hey, just take a look at that motor, see if there's any maybe pulp or something that's keeping this motor from having proper cooling. So as they were doing that, I actually could use the dashboard trend, as John had showed you earlier. I went to that particular motor, started looking at the actual current and the torque of that motor, the speeds of that particular motor and drive combination, to make sure that this temperature alert didn't just occur because of maybe loading, but after reviewing the trends, the actual torques, currents look good. And then I received feedback from the customer that actually they had a fan they had moved off that motor, and that caused the temperature to actually rise on that particular motor. So for me, I believe that was very valuable for the customer. So we're talking about a 1200 horsepower motor on their press section, and just using the dashboards actually help us to identify an issue ahead of time. The second scenario, the vibrational alerts. We've been working very closely with this particular customer, E&I group, that actually does a lot of their in-house vibration analysis. And when we actually receive a speed performance KPI alert, we can actually look at that particular drive motor combination. We can actually go back or forward in time and actually see the performance of that particular section. We had one scenario where actually in a size press where they were constantly breaking the shafts on that particular section. We were able to go back in time, actually see when the occurrence was starting. But not only that, we were able to receive alerts ahead of time to notify those guys, hey, go out, take a look at this particular roll, make sure everything is okay. So in that case, they could alert their vibration guys to go out, take a look, make some measurements, and we pretty much worked together on resolving some of those issues. The second most recent alert that occurred was a supply voltage alert. Actually, the customer has 6 supply units. This particular supply unit is a DCS supply unit on their wet end. I received an alert that the supply voltage, that's the DC bus voltage, was below its normal level. And we know that supply voltage is actually, the DC bus voltage is directly proportional to the AC line voltage that's coming to that unit. So again, I received the alert, notified the customer, but actually started looking at the trend data on that particular DC supply. And what I found was, yes, the actual DC supply voltage was lower than normal, but even on all of my other supply units, which were ISUs, their supply voltage was actually lower also. So in my conversation with the customer, we found out that the actual grid voltage that's supplying their mill actually was lower than what it normally should be. And what the customer found out later is that their supplier, their voltage actually fluctuates. So for me, when I received this particular alert, knowing that all the drives depend on a very stable DC bus voltage, that alert, it alerted me very quickly to, hey, reach out to the customer and really start diving into this particular scenario. So basically, that's an example how we've used the drive performance dashboards. We receive an alert, we're able to actually look at all of our alerts from motor temperatures, IGB temperatures, as John shown earlier, and speed performance KPIs of each section. And as we're looking at that data, myself and one other person, Ricky Garrett, we can analyze that data and reach out to the customer and say, hey, take a look at these sections, take a look, see if there's something going on. And I believe it's helping in with a lot of preventative maintenance. So I'll turn it over to James now.
Thank you, Robert, for going through the scenarios. But just to add to what Robert's saying, with this solution, you guys would be getting, the drives, engineers that work on the drives, that commission the drives, that service the drives. So we will be the ones that actually analyzing this data that comes into the ability solution. And just to add to what he said, that, and I think Chris mentioned it earlier, that you will receive a monthly, bi-weekly report on the data, and also a quarterly report where we present our findings and what we corrected, any recommendations on anything that we feel like that needs to be done on the machine for better performance. So with that being said, I turn it back over to Chris.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Robert and James. I love hearing those stories every time. Okay, great. Looks like we covered everything. Well done, John. All right, and before we close, I just wanted to let you know that we do have more upcoming Tech Talks planned. We're going to do one specifically to the architecture for our secure remote access, data collection, and data transfer. And that's been getting a lot of inquiries about that. And then also operational technology, cybersecurity, OT cybersecurity, and then the next module for ability, which is the QCS connected performance. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your afternoon.